A stunning photo appears on screen. A beautiful couple at a luxury hotel by Lake Lucerne, Switzerland. She's smiling radiantly. He has his arm around her. The caption reads, "Romantic getaway with my love." Comments flooding in. Couple goals. You two are perfect. So jealous. But here's what that photo didn't show. On the way to that hotel, he told her he couldn't wait to start a fight so he could go home. During dinner, he insulted other couples at the restaurant. When she asked him to stop, he exploded, told her she would never tell him what to say, and abandoned her alone at the hotel. That perfect photo? It was taken the next morning after she spent the night crying alone. This is the story of Christina Yoksimovic, a woman who spent her career teaching other women to project confidence on the runway, while behind closed doors, she lived in terror. A story of red flags that everyone missed. A story that proves that what we see on social media is often the biggest lie of all. And a story that ended in the most horrific way imaginable on February 13th, 2024, in a quiet Swiss suburb. Are you ready for the darkest stories Britain has to offer? Introducing our new book, Unreal True Crime, British edition. 35 shocking true murder cases that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Available now on Amazon in paperback and Kindle, or grab your instant PDF download from our website. Links are in the description below. Don't miss out. Get your copy today. And now, let's continue with today's case. Scroll through Christina Joksimovic's social media, and you'd see a woman who had it all. A former Miss Switzerland finalist, a successful catwalk coach who had trained beauty queens, including Dominique Rinderknecht for Miss Universe 2013, a Google recruiter, a mother of 2 beautiful daughters, a wife living in a gorgeous home in Binningen, Switzerland. Born on April 15, 1985, in Basel, Switzerland, Christina was a woman of Serbian roots with striking beauty and unstoppable ambition. By 22, she had competed in the Miss Switzerland pageant. By her 30s, she had built a career that spanned 2 worlds, the glamour of fashion and the corporate prestige of tech recruitment. She founded Catwalk Coach, her own modeling agency, and spent years teaching young women the secrets of the runway, how to walk with power, how to command attention, how to project confidence even when you don't feel it. Those who knew her described her as energetic, ambitious, and deeply committed to empowering other women. The tragic irony? The woman who taught others to stand tall and project strength was herself shrinking smaller and smaller inside her own home. The woman who coached beauty queens to own the stage couldn't find the courage to leave a man who was slowly destroying her. Abusers often target successful, confident women. Why? Because breaking them down gives them a greater sense of power and control. If you notice someone who was once outgoing becoming increasingly withdrawn, pay attention. Christina slowly stopped sharing her real struggles with friends and family. On social media, everything looked perfect. In reality, she was being isolated. Christina's husband appeared to be everything a woman could want. He came from a wealthy, influential Swiss family. He was a successful entrepreneur who owned a consulting firm. On his LinkedIn profile, he proudly described himself as a father of 2 daughters. He even volunteered to lead a local scout group. To the outside world, he was the ideal family man. The couple married in August 2017. They welcomed their first daughter in 2020 and their second in 2021. Friends who visited their beautiful home in Binningen saw what looked like a fairy tale, a power couple with adorable children and a picture-perfect life. But Christina's family had sensed something was wrong from the very beginning. They noticed that while Christina was extroverted, always smiling and full of life, her partner was different. He was introverted, often critical, and came across as arrogant. He seemed to look down on others. But Christina was in love, and she believed she could make it work. Psychologists call this the public persona versus private reality split. Many abusers are masters at impression management. They're charming, successful, and well-liked in public. But at home, they're controlling, critical, and cruel. Friends and family often can't believe someone so nice could be abusive. That's exactly what the abuser counts on. To understand what happened to Christina, we need to understand a pattern of abuse that often goes unrecognized: coercive control. Unlike physical violence, which leaves visible marks, coercive control is psychological warfare. It's a pattern of behavior designed to dominate, isolate, and terrorize a partner. After Christina's death, her husband underwent a psychiatric evaluation. The results were chilling. Experts found that he displayed sadistic and sociopathic traits. He had a low capacity for empathy and emotional intelligence. He was capable of acting with cold calculation. He showed low tolerance for frustration and poor impulse control, characteristics commonly found in violent criminals. But here's what makes coercive controllers so dangerous. They're often highly intelligent and skilled at manipulation. Christina's husband knew exactly how to present himself to the world. He crafted an image of the perfect father, the successful businessman, the community volunteer. Meanwhile, at home, he was systematically breaking down his wife. The tactics of coercive control include isolation, cutting the victim off from friends and family. Christina slowly stopped confiding in people about her real situation. Monitoring and surveillance, controlling where the victim goes, who they see, what they wear. Friends noted he was obsessed with controlling their daughter's activities and appearances. Degradation, humiliating the victim, making them feel worthless. The incident at the Lake Lucerne Hotel, where he publicly insulted others and then abandoned Christina, was textbook degradation. Threats, making the victim afraid of what will happen if they disobey or leave. After Christina called the police in July 2023, he told her, "If you call the police, you'll see what happens to you." When a victim finally takes action, calling police, telling family, seeing a lawyer, the abuser often escalates threats. This is one of the most dangerous periods. Christina was threatened after calling authorities. This should have been a major warning sign of potential lethal violence. What makes this case even more tragic is that Christina's husband had a documented history of violence against intimate partners, a pattern that existed long before he ever met her. During the investigation, an ex-girlfriend came forward to testify. Her account was harrowing. She revealed that he had been violent with her multiple times during their relationship. On one occasion, he ran over her foot with his car and then threatened to throw her out of the moving vehicle. On another, he grabbed her by the hair and smashed her head against the dashboard of his car. She said she only managed to escape the relationship in April 2016, just over a year before he married Christina. This testimony revealed a crucial truth. The violence wasn't new. It wasn't something that snapped in him. It was a pattern that Christina walked into without knowing. Research consistently shows that domestic abusers rarely abuse just one partner. If someone has been violent in past relationships, they are highly likely to be violent again. This is why knowing a partner's history matters. Friends and family who know about past violence have a responsibility to warn. Throughout 2023, Christina continued posting beautiful family photos on Instagram, vacations, smiling children, cozy family moments. To her followers, nothing seemed wrong. But in private, Christina was slowly opening up. She told friends that after the birth of their children, her relationship had deteriorated significantly. She confided that her husband had become distant, withdrawn, and unreachable emotionally. She mentioned he had started using substances, alcohol, and she had caught him twice smoking marijuana in the basement. On July 14, 2023, the facade cracked publicly for the first time. Police were called to their home following a domestic violence incident. During this confrontation, according to testimony, Christina's husband grabbed her by the throat and slammed her head against a wall. This was strangulation, one of the most significant predictors of future lethal violence in domestic abuse cases. The couple attempted therapy, but he didn't take it seriously. He would leave sessions early or simply not show up. By this point, Christina had consulted a divorce lawyer. Her friends warned her to be extremely careful given his violent behavior and his family's wealth and influence. Studies show that victims who have been strangled by their partner are 750% more likely to be killed by that partner. Strangulation is not just violence. It is a predictor of homicide. If someone you know has been strangled by a partner, they are in extreme danger. This should trigger immediate intervention. When an abuser begins using substances, the risk of severe violence increases dramatically. Alcohol and drugs lower inhibitions and impair judgment, making lethal violence more likely. Christina noticed this change but didn't realize how much more dangerous it made her situation. There's a tragic truth that domestic violence experts know all too well. The most dangerous time for an abuse victim is when they try to leave. Statistics show that the risk of homicide increases by 75% when a victim attempts to leave their abuser. By early 2024, Christina was at this critical juncture. She had consulted a lawyer about divorce. She had called the police after being assaulted. She was making plans to escape. For a coercive controller like her husband, this represented the ultimate loss of control, something his personality could not tolerate. According to friends, her husband was obsessed with appearances and the image of having a perfect family. He treated his daughters like a project, controlling their activities and clothing. His LinkedIn profile proudly declared him a father. A divorce would shatter this carefully constructed facade. It would expose him as a failure. And for someone with narcissistic and sociopathic traits, that exposure is unbearable. When an abuser is more concerned with how they appear to others than with the well-being of their family, it's a danger sign. If someone views their spouse and children as possessions or extensions of themselves rather than as individuals, they may become violent when that image is threatened. In February 2024, Christina's parents noticed something alarming. They couldn't reach their daughter. For days, there was no response to calls or messages. This was completely out of character. Christina had always been extremely close to her family, maintaining constant contact with them. Then came a call from the preschool. Christina hadn't picked up her daughters. When her father contacted his son-in-law, the response was disturbingly casual. He claimed that Christina sometimes disappeared without a word, leaving the house without saying where she was going. He suggested this was just another one of her temporary vanishing acts. But her family knew this was a lie. This had never happened before. What frustrated them even more was his apparent indifference. His wife was missing, and he seemed unbothered. He simply took care of the children and insisted everything was normal. When someone's spouse goes missing and they show no concern, alarm bells should ring. A normal person would be frantic. They would call hospitals, friends, police. The absence of this expected emotional response is a major indicator that something is very wrong. On February 13th, 2024, Christina's father visited the family home once more. He spent hours there, having lunch with his granddaughters while his son-in-law continued to insist he had no idea where Christina was. Before leaving, something drew him to the shed near the house. Perhaps it was instinct, perhaps it was desperation. In a corner, he found a garbage bag. When he looked inside, his world collapsed. He had found the remains of his beloved daughter. Screaming in horror, he ran into the street, stopped the first car that passed, and called police. Shortly after 8:30 p.m., officers from Binningen responded to the call. They found a person dead in the residence, suspected of violent crime, and arrested the husband at the scene. What investigators uncovered over the following months revealed the full extent of the horror. According to Swiss media reports based on court proceedings, Christina had been strangled, the same method her husband had used when he attacked her in July 2023. But the crime didn't end with her death. Prosecutors would later charge him with disturbing the peace of the dead, a legal term for the desecration of a corpse. Her body had been dismembered, and attempts had been made to dispose of the remains. The prosecution argued that the methods he chose and the tools he used revealed premeditation and deep hatred. One detail from the investigation stands out as particularly disturbing. While allegedly trying to cover up his crime, investigators found that he had been watching YouTube videos on his phone. This wasn't the behavior of someone in shock or experiencing a breakdown, as he would later claim. It was the behavior of someone calmly passing time while methodically destroying evidence. His story changed multiple times. First, he claimed he had simply found her and panicked. Then he claimed self-defense, an assertion that forensic evidence completely contradicted. In March 2024, during a crime scene reconstruction, he admitted to killing her while still maintaining the self-defense claim. Investigators also discovered that he had purchased specific tools before the crime. He claimed they were for his scout group, but prosecutors believe they were part of a premeditated plan. The psychiatric evaluation of Christina's husband painted a clinical picture of a dangerous personality. Experts identified sadistic and sociopathic traits, a combination that helps explain both the violence and the calculated way he tried to cover it up. What does this mean in practical terms? Sadistic traits indicate someone who derives satisfaction from the suffering of others. This explains the prolonged nature of Christina's abuse, the humiliation, the control, the terror. For him, her fear was gratifying. Sociopathic traits indicate a lack of empathy, remorse, or genuine emotional connection. This explains how he could kill the mother of his children and then calmly watch YouTube videos while disposing of her body. It explains how he could have lunch with his father-in-law while his wife's remains were in the shed outside. Low frustration tolerance combined with poor impulse control meant that when Christina began taking steps to leave, consulting a lawyer, calling police, his response was explosive violence rather than acceptance. The prosecution argued that these psychological characteristics, combined with the methods and effort required to commit the crime and its aftermath, demonstrated profound hatred and premeditation. The conclusion was stark. He was a danger to everyone around him, including his own children. On December 10, 2025, the Basel-Landschaft Public Prosecutor's Office announced that it had completed its investigation and filed formal charges. The now 43-year-old suspect faces 2 charges: Murder under Article 112 of the Swiss Criminal Code, which requires particularly unscrupulous conduct and carries a penalty of life imprisonment or not less than 10 years, and disturbing the peace of the dead under Article 262, punishable by up to 3 years. In September 2024, the Swiss Federal Supreme Court denied his request for release pending trial, citing the severity of the allegations and indications of mental illness. He remains in security detention. His defense attorneys have indicated they will seek a verdict of not guilty by reason of mental illness. Under Swiss law, this could significantly reduce his sentence. There is concern that given his family's wealth and influence and his manipulative abilities, he could potentially secure early release for good behavior. As of this recording, no trial date has been set. The true victims of this tragedy extend beyond Christina herself. Her 2 daughters, just 4 and 3 years old at the time, lost everything. Their mother was murdered. Their father went to prison. They had to leave their home and move in with their maternal grandparents. Child psychologists have been working with the girls since their mother's death. On the day of Christina's funeral, they told the children that their mother was sleeping and wouldn't come back. As they grow older, they will eventually learn the truth, that their father killed their mother. It's a burden no child should ever have to carry. Christina's friends have expressed profound guilt. They wonder if they could have done more. They remember her confessions, her calls for help that they didn't fully understand at the time. They wish they had pushed harder, intervened more forcefully, helped her escape before it was too late. Christina Joksimovich's story is not just a crime to be analyzed. It's a warning. It's a lesson in the red flags that, in hindsight, were there all along. Let's review what we learned. Red flag number 1. Gradual isolation from friends and family. Red flag number 2. A charming public persona that hides private cruelty. Red flag number 3. Threats after the victim takes protective action. Red flag number 4. A history of violence with past partners. Red flag number 5. Strangulation, the single greatest predictor of future homicide. Red flag number 6. Escalating substance abuse. Red flag number 7. Obsession with image and control over family members. Red flag number 8. Abnormal emotional responses to crisis situations. If you recognize any of these signs in your own relationship or in someone you love, please take action. Don't wait. Don't assume it will get better. Don't believe the Instagram photos. The most dangerous time is when a victim tries to leave, but staying is not safer. It just delays the inevitable escalation. Christina Joksimovich spent her career teaching women to walk with confidence, to own their power, to command attention. In the end, she couldn't save herself from a man who was determined to destroy her. But perhaps her story can save someone else. Now that you know all the details of this case, I want to hear from you. Do you believe the Swiss justice system will deliver a sentence that truly reflects the horror of what happened? Or do you fear that wealth, influence, and manipulation will once again allow an abuser to escape full accountability? And more importantly, did you recognize any of these red flags? Have you seen them in your own life or in someone you care about? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about this, because conversations like this can save lives. Again, I remind you to subscribe and leave a like to let me know that my work is to your liking. Good night. Until next time.